There are a lot of reasons some people choose cannabis. Whether you're tapping into your creative side or just trying to relax, the one thing weed won't do is make it any more safe or legal to drive afterwards. It can slow reaction times, for example, and if you thought a few eye drops helped you get away with it, know that people can tell when you've been smoking marijuana, including law enforcement. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI.
This podcast is brought to you by Kleenex Lotion Tissues. You can't predict sick days, but with Kleenex Lotion Tissues, you can be better prepared for them while helping keep your skin healthy. Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation while you're battling those unwanted cold and flu symptoms. It's extra care when you need it most. Keep relief within reach. Grab Kleenex Lotion Tissues to help avoid the added discomfort of irritated skin during cold and flu season. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Life can throw a lot your way in the morning. You might be battling drop-off times, while your kids are battling imaginary monsters or their shoelaces. But no matter what life brings, Life cereal puts a smile on everyone's face. With 24 grams of whole grains and unexpected sweetness in every serving, it's sure to please even the pickiest eaters. Help start your mornings with Life cereal.
I really love my life.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Holiday magic is in the air, and DSW's got all the shoes to make your season extra merry. Believe, you've got parties to attend and lists to check twice, so DSW is taking care of the details, like gifts to make their eyes all aglow, styles that bring joy to your world, brands everyone wants, like UGG, Nike, Birkenstock, and more, and deals to make your budget bright. Find the perfect shoes for you and yours at a DSW store near you or dsw.com.
Doogie.
Sam.
Has there been a more polarising, bizarre, entertaining and downright brow-furrowing footballer than Kylian Mbappé this season? Let's talk about it.
Do you think Real Madrid regrets signing Mbappé at this point?
At this point, it doesn't look like a good decision.
He now faces Mbappé. And he saved the penalty!
Could Kylian Mbappé be making Real Madrid worse? Because at the moment, he seems to be causing more problems than he's solving.
Kylian Mbappé! Amazing. And just like that, the Champions lead!
I think Mbappe's problem was confidence. I think he'd lost a bit of the confidence because of the expectation. He's scoring goals. He's looking more confident again.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of The Truth. I am your host, Sam Ty. Joining me is Doogie Critchley.
Hello, Sam.
Hello. And our voice of God, our producer, Jack Collins, is here too. Hello, mate.
Hello, Sam. Hello, Doogie. Merry Christmas to you both.
Yes, absolutely. We are recording this in advance, and so we are wishing you all a happy holidays all the way back from December the 17th.
Exactly.
And we're just assuming that everything has gone great for both us and for you as well.
I'm sure it has. I don't have any doubts about that. We're going to have a great Christmas. And all the listeners will too, because they are loving the truth and we're loving making it.
Absolutely. Okay, right. Today we're talking Kylian Mbappé. Told you we'd get here eventually. It's the man who finally got his big move to Real Madrid last summer. And journalist Sid Lowe called it a 7-year pursuit, which I assume means that they tried to get him when he left Monaco, failed, and then waited 7. I mean, that's a long time. That is a long time to wait for a man. And Mbappe has been waiting for a long time for Real Madrid too. It is officially a free transfer. Although one of my favourite things to do in this world is tell everyone that free transfers are not actually free. It's far from free. 125 million euro signing on bonus, an annual salary of 15 million euros, rising to 20 million euros in increments. To be fair, that's still not as much as the really, really top earners in this world, the Saudi Arabian players, as an example. But even at 20 million, it would put him in line with what Leroy Sané earns at Bayern this year.
Wow.
And that is not to say that Leroy Sané is good value for money. It's the opposite. However, as Madrid fans are quite quick to point out, it's the wages for Mbappe are not as stratospheric as a lot of people would have imagined. However, 125 million euros signing on bonus. Anyway, that's my part in this discussion done. I'll hand over now. No, just kidding. Look, we're going to talk about his start to life at Madrid. It's been a long time coming. He's waited a long time for it. His reputation has brought about expectation, and depending on who you speak to, the initial analysis of his time at Madrid has been either poor or average. I don't think I've seen a single person say it's been good,
no, I think
let alone excellent. So where do you stand on this, Doogie?
I think it's been average, I would say, rather than poor.
Average?
I actually think it's been average. I think
That's a very glass half full way of putting it.
Yeah, I think I'm a glass half full guy. I think I'm a glass half full guy. And I think a lot of people have been maybe a little bit unfair to not change their opinion in the last few weeks as well. So actually, as we record this, it's worth setting a little bit of the scene. So as Sam said at the top, it's the 17th of December when we record this, and Mbappe injured his thigh in Real's 3-2 win over Atalanta last midweek. He then missed their 3-3 draw with Rayo Vallecano, which was an absolutely crazy game at the weekend. Real could easily have lost that as well. And as we record this, he's set to play in the Intercontinental Cup final in Doha on Wednesday against Pachuca. So it wasn't a serious thigh injury.
No. And he will play one more game in between our recording right now and when this podcast goes out. And it's Sevilla at home on December the 22nd. But I would just say, first of all, Jack, I'm sure you hope he scores a hat-trick in that game.
Very rare, but yes.
But he's got one consequential game as far as I see it. So it's an absolutely fine time to talk about him. And just bear in mind that all the statistics that we produce today will be based on everything pre-Sevilla.
Exactly. And Real's season as a whole is kind of in an interesting point as well, because they are third in La Liga as we record this. They are 1 point behind not only Barcelona, but also Atletico Madrid, who've been on a crazy tear recently. They've won 6 straight games. They've scored 15 goals. And how has Mbappe done for this season so far? Well, he signed for the club in early June. As we said, it was the worst kept secret in football, not just for the 7 years that Real Madrid wanted him, but particularly the whole of 2024, he was going to Real Madrid, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
So when he joined in early June, he had a full pre-season. It should have been more, well, he had every chance to make it more seamless than it's been, I think it's fair to say. So far, 12 goals and 2 assists in 22 games in all competitions. That is not a disaster. Is it the levels you expect from the, in most people's minds, best player in the world? No. And Real Madrid have suffered through a number of issues this season, which we'll get onto. It's not all just Mbappe, but as it stands, they've lost 5 of their 23 games this season. They only lost 2 in the entirety of last campaign, both against Atletico Madrid, in the Copa del Rey and 1 in the league. They are on track for 82 points this season. That is 13 fewer than last season. So there is a discussion to be had about whether Mbappe, how big are Mbappe's lack of regular performances and consistency of performance has affected them so far, and then other factors as well. But I think, Sam, it's worth setting a little bit of the scene on what Real Madrid thought they were signing, because PSG Mbappe is a phenomenon.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think up until this season, he was, in my mind, pegged as, if it's not Messi, then who is the best player in the world these days? And I think I wasn't absolutely set on anybody, but if you pushed me for an answer, it would have been him. He's certainly not playing like it right now. There's nothing to suggest that he is, and it brings it all back into question, I think, quite fairly so. Mbappe is one of the fastest forwards in world football. He's one of the most exhilarating players to watch in full flow. He's scored bucket loads of goals and chimed in with a lot of assists for PSG over a very long period of time. And of course, we're talking about a player who has won a World Cup and has won tons of individual and club trophies. So one of the most decorated players in the game. in his mid-20s, presumably in the prime of his career, and one of the most exhilarating and quickest forwards in world football. Of course, we all said in the summer, even before that, January, the year before, the 18 months leading up to this move, everybody was just like, why would you sign Mbappe if you have Vinicius Jr? Because they both play in the same position. And we all knew that something was going to have to give. And the fact that Vinicius Jr hit supersonic levels in the last 12 months has only made this more difficult and more awkward. So all eyes were on this move, not only from a fascinating point of view of this is potentially the best player in the world becoming yet another Galactico at the superstar club. It's also, is it going to work? So we were already contextually at the point where we were suspicious of whether or not this could ever get off to the right start. You obviously expect a player of his caliber to do so, but there was a nagging feeling among, I presume, everybody in this room. There's only three of us. I don't know why I said that. You, me, and Jack.
And the crowd.
Certainly, Jack. You felt this. I felt this. Everyone felt this. Yeah. Okay, can they coexist? Let's see. This is going to be really interesting. That is not the sort of game you usually play with players who cost this much money.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the difficulty is he was joining a club that had not a perfect season, but pretty close to a perfect season.
Yeah.
And they had done it without Karim Benzema, who'd, led them to Champions Leagues in the past as part of a triumvirate, but he's led them to Champions Leagues as the main man. And they did it with a sort of free system up front. Sometimes it'd be Jude Bellingham playing as a false nine. Sometimes it would be Joselu, who we should talk about at some stage in the podcast.
Do we have to?
I mean, what a season he had for
No, this podcast is not about Joselu. Move on.
It should be. It is a point. It is definitely a point. Deciding to let Joselu go, I think, is a huge issue in this whole system. I really do mean it.
Mate, we're like 10 minutes into an Mbappe pod.
He scored 19 goals last season. They need a Joselu. They really do. The fact they went for another Mbappe, who is more similar to Vinicius Jr in style, is the crux of why Mbappe isn't working at Real Madrid. Stylistically, He is the wrong fit. So I think Joselu is relevant. And look, we talked about the finances that were involved in bringing Mbappe to the club. And in terms of marketability, it was their first real Galactico signing, well, aside from Jude Bellingham, since that Eden Hazard summer as well, which proved to be such a horrific waste of money. Eden Hazard and Luka Jovic came in that summer as well. And actually, marketability-wise, it's such a huge signing for the club. El Chiringuito, which is obviously a pretty biased TV station.
Careful
so
now.
Can't say that this is necessarily completely accurate, but I'm sure there's truth in it. They said that in July of this year, so a month after Mbappe had joined the club, his shirt sales were 450% bigger than Bellingham's, which is kind of crazy. So they generated 800,000 euros in the first month, and that was only online, so it wasn't even in their club store. So you do get a sense of the enormity of this transfer and the size of the spotlight on him. And Jack, I think it's fair to say that he hasn't sparkled in the spotlight just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something in what all has been said already. And that, Sam, you pointed out right at the top that Sid Lowe said it was a 7-year saga to get Mbappe through the door.
Yeah.
7 years ago, this move made loads of sense. Hell, 3 years ago, this move made loads of sense because there was a space there on that left wing. The ascension of Vinicius Jr into this world superstar that was, is so loved by Real Madrid that they decided to boycott the Ballon d'Or because he did not win the award, right? And then, so you're looking at it last summer and finally they get this opportunity to make the dream come true. And I do think there's something with these saga transfers. You think about Coutinho going to Barcelona. You think about, there's a lot of them that are dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. How many of them work?
Yeah, they don't work.
How many of them work?
Also, there's an element here. We're talking about the ascension of Vinicius Jr. at just the wrong time for Mbappe. It kind of reminds me of when Bayern won the treble under Jupp Heynckes and then Pep Guardiola had already agreed to take over.
Yeah.
And then he had to go and take over the treble winners and he couldn't repeat the feat. He couldn't match what Jupp Heynckes did. And he left Bayern Munich and everyone was a bit like, oh, well, that didn't really work out, did it?
But I think the thing with this Mbappe one is that, obviously Real Madrid have been courting him, shall we say, for a long, long time, right? There's been all of this stuff, the posters in his bedroom, the whole shebang. It's been there forever. We've all been through this saga time and time again.
We've all been through it with him.
Yeah, exactly, in so many ways. And I think that it was almost that sense that once he became available, Madrid probably almost felt duty-bound to sign him, right? And there is an argument, and it's a strange one, that Mbappe would have fitted better at Barcelona this summer. Like there is a gaping Mbappe-sized hole for Barcelona. There is not one at Real Madrid.
To be fair, but just ask Barcelona to come up with 125 million signing bonus.
I get it, but
stylistically, yes.
The point is that basically, like Real Madrid have kind of like made their bed with this transfer all those years ago by basically being like, this is it, this is the dream, this is the move. When he becomes available, he's going to come here. There's nowhere else he will go.
Yep.
And then suddenly it comes to it, and you're like, actually, I don't think we need him.
Yeah,
but we kind of have to sign him anyway.
They were trapped in it because they nearly signed him the first time for a fee, and then Mbappe had a meeting with Nasser El Khelaïfi, and he backed out of it. And from that point,
and Macron,
and the French president, and he didn't leave Paris, and then eventually he did 12 months later. And yeah, everyone just probably kind of felt a bit trapped into it. I've literally just had a watch alert. Breaking: Vinicius Jr. named Best FIFA Men's Player of the Year for 2024 as we're recording.
There we have it.
Seems fitting
for
the discussion. But we talked about the context of Mbappe here, and I just want to make it clear that while his league and Champions League record is 11-2, so he's got one in the cup somewhere, it doesn't sound too bad. It's like a 1-2 ratio. It's fine, but it's 0.7 goals and assists per 90. It's the worst return of his entire career. He has hit double that, as in 1.4 goals and assists per 90, or just shy of it, in 6 of his 7 seasons. So he's way down on his typical level, the level that we have come to expect. And I bagged myself a little free trial of FBref's StatHead recently, and I've been just spending the worst amount of time stuck in a search query. But I put it to good use here, and I decided to take a look at all of the times that Kylian Mbappé has taken 5 or more shots in the league in a game and not scored. It's happened 7 times in his entire career, and 2 of those 7 have already come at Real Madrid.
Wow.
One of those games, he took 9 shots and didn't score. That was against Las Palmas. That was the 3rd La Liga game in a row in his career, so to start off with Real Madrid, where he had not yet scored. Remember when he started in a really difficult way. So 3 games without a goal. The 3rd one, 9 shots, no goals. The 4th one, Real Betis, 8 shots. And he's getting so annoyed he can't finish. Vinicius Jr. gives him a penalty to get off the mark. Do you remember that was a big thing? Like, Martin Odegaard did this with Kai Havertz when he joined Arsenal, and they gave him a penalty at Bournemouth to get him off the mark. Like, you just would not expect this to be the case with what so many perceive to be the best player in the world. He had to be given a gift of a goal to get him off the mark. Now, since then, it's been a relatively decent run, like 4 goals in 3 and then roughly 1 in 2 after that. But there's a couple of really, really bad ones in the Champions League as well that people are paying attention to. It's 2 goals in 6 games, 24 shots, 8 shots against Milan, didn't score, lost 3-1. 7 shots against Stuttgart, scored 1. 5 against Dortmund, didn't score. And then there's the Liverpool game. The Liverpool game was so weird. So 3 minutes in, do you remember this? 3 minutes in, he cuts in off the left flank and starts to venture inward, and he lifts his head and he starts to look for a pass. And he takes forever to try and pick a pass. And Mohamed Salah walks up behind him and just fishes the ball out and runs off with it. And Mbappe just is like, he's like, oh, I didn't realise you could do that. He was so in his own world and in his own head, I think, that Salah was able to walk up behind him and take the ball off him and run. And Liverpool nearly scored off the back of it. And then obviously later in the game, Mbappe misses a penalty. We don't know at the time, but he had no chance anyway because Quaveen Kelleher was in goal.
Best keeper in the world.
So there was no way that penalty was going in anyway, but it felt like a big moment again. Big stage, Anfield, Real Madrid, Liverpool, 2 of the best teams in Europe. Mbappe is firmly outshone by Mohamed Salah and misses a penalty. Then there's the Barca game.
Oh dear.
8 offsides. Like, what is going on? And some of them are horrendous. And you watch them, and I was watching through, and it's like a car crash you can't take your eyes off, right? It's an absolute massacre. And with each one that gets clocked, it gets worse. How are you still offside? He broke a record that day, and they lost 4-0.
I didn't realise it was a record.
So there's been enough bad bits here, I've just listed off all of them really, to really fuel that narrative that it's been a massive disappointment. Now, you started off by saying that it's been okay and possibly a little bit overstated that how bad it's been. Does any of that change your mind?
I mean, I think the thing is, what I was kind of preparing to say was if we recorded this podcast like a month ago, I think I would definitely strongly agree that he's been poor. I think you even came on a show on Sky with myself and I was saying, like, should they have bought Victor Osimhen instead of Mbappe? It was mainly for the thumbnail of the video, but it was a worthwhile discussion at that time. Like, was Mbappe just the wrong profile of player to buy? But what I would say is in the last few weeks, I think he has gone from poor to average. And I'm not saying that that's a huge change, but I think it is notable.
It's an upward trajectory.
He's on the way up. He scored an amazing goal versus Getafe on the 1st of December. He was playing off the left, interestingly, with Vinicius Jr injured.
Yeah.
He was then really poor against Athletic Club. In that game they lost. He missed a penalty.
And a sitter.
But then he was brilliant in that 3-0 win away at Girona. And then in 36 minutes versus Atalanta, prior to picking up that thigh injury, we're talking at the start of the show about, it was probably his best 36 minutes in a Real Madrid shirt. And look, the standard has been poor. And just to dig in a little bit deeper into the stats, 3 players in La Liga have outscored him: Lewandowski, Rafinha, and Ante Budimir. Did you expect that at the start of the season, that Budimir would have scored more La Liga goals than Mbappe? I certainly didn't. 3 of his 9 La Liga goals have been penalties. There's only 7 players in Europe that have scored more than him. 27 players in Europe have contributed more league goals than him. That's fewer than Alexander Isak, who I think has been really up and down in the Premier League, to be totally honest. James Maddison, who is a central attacking midfielder.
Doesn't even start all the time.
Doesn't necessarily start all the time. And Isak and Maddison, great players in their own right. But this is Kylian Mbappé we're talking about. This is a guy that scored 4 goals in World Cup finals. He became the first player since 1966 to score a hat-trick in a World Cup final. He scored 8 in that World Cup in total. This was the guy that was supposed to take Real Madrid to their next era, that had, they'd won the league and Champions League without a striker, or without a top striker, as we've already discussed. But Mbappe was supposed to be the guy that just cemented them as the side that were going to continue to win endless Champions Leagues going forward. With Camavinga, with Bellingham, with Vinicius, with Rodrigo and Tchouaméni all aging together. And if you look into the specifics of those numbers, it's a little bit troubling. So he's getting 2.2 shots on target per 90, which is actually his second best tally since 2019-20. He's getting 48% of them on target. But I feel like when I'm watching him this year, so many of the efforts he's getting on target are just very savable.
Yeah,
it feels like for so long we just saw Mbappe cut in and either bend it deliciously outside the far post and it finishes in the top right or bottom right hand corner, or that Mbappe finish where he kind of shoots between a defender's legs and it goes in at the near post.
Yeah, so it cuts it across himself.
And at the moment it feels like most of the time the goalkeeper's not having to do that much work and the ball's just ending up in his vicinity. It feels like he's rushing, which is so weird. So
this morning, perks of the job, I watched every shot Mbappe's taken in the league this year. Every single one. And I tried to note down as much as I could the different things that I saw in terms of patterns, where he's struggling, where he's thriving, positions where he's taking shots from. And there were some really good bits. You've mentioned a few of them there, like the Girona goal is unbelievable, where he sort of spins on the outside of the centre-back, lashes it in from a ridiculously acute angle. The Getafe one in transition was great. There's a one against Celta Vigo, about 22 yards out, sweeps that to the top corner, brilliant. And the Alaves 1-2 with Jude, where he does like a backheel chop, instigates the 1-2, slinks the defender and places it, amazing. But then the Athletic game that you mentioned where he missed another penalty, there's a shot he takes that Vinicius Jr goes to the byline on the left and cuts it back across for him. And he's at the Mbappe angle. And when I say that, I mean, imagine him cutting in from the left into the box, slinks the defender, and then just harmlessly into the keeper's arms when you're expecting him to just curl it just around him. He's got half the goal there to look at. It's very frustrating to watch. And one of the things I really wanted to ask you for this discussion was, like, we've kind of mentioned it, he's having to play up front. He is outwardly, steadfastly against playing number 9. He's like, I don't like it. We all know that. He loves playing off Giroud, loves playing off the left, doesn't want to be the guy in the middle. It's just something that he is having to do this season when Vinicius is there in the team. Sometimes he gets to play on the left, but most of the time he doesn't. How much of this is to do with playing up front? Because despite the fact that we all see him as a goal-scoring forward, he doesn't actually do this very often. So there is an argument to say that they are making the best player in the world learn new tricks, and that is going to slow you down.
It's definitely going to slow you down for sure. I feel like it's too easy an excuse for him. Like when you're this much better than most players that you play against, particularly in La Liga, and that's not even against La Liga, but the standard of defending, when I watch him, I feel like there's a lack of effort on the ball and off the ball. And that has always kind of been the case with Mbappe, particularly off the ball. But it doesn't feel like he's tuned in. It doesn't feel like he's happy. And I think part of this, is worth mentioning as well what's going on with the France squad right now. He said to a well-known French journalist, Julien Laurent, I think in a personal interview a couple of weeks ago, that he wanted to be picked for the latest squad and Deschamps just didn't. And this is a guy that was made captain a few years ago over Antoine Griezmann, a really unpopular decision with Antoine Griezmann, who subsequently retired from the French international scene. This was the guy who was supposed to be leading them into a new era as France sort of moved past that 2018 team finally. And it's not really working out for him at club level or country level, which, given the fact you've got your dream move and you have joined the club that you had posters of on your wall as a child, you have the opportunity to emulate Cristiano Ronaldo, it's uncomfortable. What I would say is the best trio I can remember at Real Madrid in recent years, Benzema, Bale and Cristiano Ronaldo, they were all playing in their correct positions, and they had a facilitator in Benzema who was incredibly unselfish for the vast majority of his career to link it all together.
Until the other two left, and then he just went, you know what, actually, Ballon d'Or.
I can carry this. Yeah, I can go supernova.
He's so good.
Whereas at the moment, it feels like, and it's not really a criticism of any of their forwards, but they are quite stylistically similar. And Mbappe, his creativity is really, really low right now. He's at 0.11 expected assists per 90. That's the lowest of his career. For context, it's the same as Jefferson Lerma and Gvardiol at Man City. His dribble success rate is now just over 40%. For context, again, you'd want that to be over 60%. That's the second lowest of his career.
These are all impacted by the fact that he's playing centrally, of course.
For sure. And he's up against defenders that are right on him, and he's not having any lead-up time to beat a man and then pick out a pass. But his dribbling's gone down, his passing's gone down, and what he looks like right now is a good number 9. He does not look like the best player in the world.
Yeah, agreed. And so, something I picked up on just watching all three of his shots again as well. I mean, yeah, watching some of the games this year, but really hammered home watching these shots, is obviously these positions he's now taking these shots from. They're different. Like for 7 years, he took shots from the same position. And I noticed on the run through that there are certain shots that he's clearly just not very good at, which is a ridiculous thing to say about someone so good at football and so good at striking the ball. But obviously we've all got certain ways that we can strike the ball, certain angles. And then we've also got shots that we really struggle with. Mm-hmm. And if you just imagine for a second that you spent 7 years of your whole professional career cutting in off the left and shooting at a certain angle from a certain place in the box. Now, it's really interesting that those shots are still okay. The Athletic one should have gone in and that was a failure, but he's obviously struggling a little bit. But a lot of his good stuff is coming from that same area. He's either playing on the left or he's just gravitating over there. When he has to go to the right, you can really tell that he hasn't shot across his body very much, or across goal, or a combination of the two, because he's really struggling with that specific one. And I say this somewhat ironically because the goal he scored against Girona, the one I mentioned, which was amazing, is this shot. Every other attempt he's done this season, and there's been quite a few, so bad. Just so bad. And there was one as well where I can't remember exactly who it was against. He went round the keeper. He went through and round the keeper and still missed. Against Getafe. Yeah, so he still rolled it past the goal on the other side. That's the angle I'm talking about. He even managed to miss an open goal going around the keeper like that. And I do have some sympathies here for him because I'm watching him look really uneasy with some of the mechanics that the position he's now playing are forcing him into. And I can't fully hold it against him because he has never, ever been asked to do this in his life. And now he is.
And when he was asked to do it, he went public on Instagram saying that he didn't want to be part of the pivot gang, I think was his phrase, which I think is what they describe as the number 9 in France.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
There are a lot of reasons some people choose cannabis. Whether you're tapping into your creative side or just trying to relax, the one thing weed won't do is make it any more safe or legal to drive afterwards. It can slow reaction times, for example, and if you thought a few eye drops helped you get away with it, know that people can tell when you've been smoking marijuana, including law enforcement. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high. Get a DUI.
This podcast is brought to you by Kleenex Lotion Tissues. You can't predict sick days, but with Kleenex Lotion Tissues, you can be better prepared for them while helping keep your skin healthy. Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation while you're battling those unwanted cold and flu symptoms. It's extra care when you need it most. Keep relief within reach. Grab Kleenex Lotion Tissues to help avoid the added discomfort of irritated skin during cold and flu season. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Life can throw a lot your way in the morning. You might be battling drop-off times, while your kids are battling imaginary monsters or their shoelaces. But no matter what life brings, Life cereal puts a smile on everyone's face. With 24 grams of whole grains and unexpected sweetness in every serving, it's sure to please even the pickiest eaters. Help start your mornings with Life cereal.
I really love my life.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
I think sometimes it's easy just to focus on the brand new signing as the reason why a team isn't doing particularly well. And I think it would be remiss of us not to mention the injuries that Real Madrid have got, particularly in the back line.
Sure.
The fact that David Alaba's been out for the entirety of the season, the best passer in their back line, I would say. Carvajal is now out for the entire season. Militao's now out. Ferland Mendy's missed a number of games as well. Cruz has just left, who kept the whole thing ticking in the middle of the park.
Do you know what? I'd forgotten that. There's so much attention on Mbappe and some of the injuries. It completely slipped my mind that this is a team recovering from the lack of Toni Kroos.
Yeah. And you're having to play, I think, one of your best midfielders of the last few years. Fede Valverde's had to play at right back.
And Tchouaméni has to play centre-back half the time.
Tchouaméni has to play centre-back, and it's a role he's very good at, but he's not as good at it as if he was in defensive midfield, and he'd probably feel more settled at Real Madrid if he'd had a better run of it in the centre of midfield. And the simple fact of it is Ancelotti's not going to move Vinicius Jr. right now. So it has to work.
He called it Vini's team not long ago. He stated in a press conference, this is Vini's team. I mean, that's a big message to send.
Huge message. And the reason there was such an outrage in the 2024 Ballon d'Or, and the reason they took it way too far, and I'm not defending that decision.
They're so silly, aren't they?
But he had a very good claim to win it. He had a very good claim to win it. I think I did a ranks with Jack, and I think we both had... Yeah. Did you have Rodri or did I... No, we both agreed.
We both had Vinicius at the top of the table, yeah. I mean, we said there wasn't much between them, but there was a perfectly reasonable case that Vinicius Jr. could have won.
Yeah, but there's also a perfectly reasonable case for Rodri.
I'm not...
Oh, yeah. We'd have turned up to the ceremony.
not
if you'd
defending
been invited, you'd have gone.
Not defending the actions, but like it was perfectly reasonable to think that Vinicius Jr could have won the Ballon d'Or. No shame there.
Yeah.
And what Vinicius has done, particularly last year in that Champions League run, that goal versus Leipzig, he then gets 2 assists versus City, 2 goals versus Bayern in the semi-final, a goal versus Dortmund. He has said, and he probably said it the year before as well, but he has said, this is my team. I can win you Champions Leagues. I can win you every tournament we enter. Mbappe hasn't done that in the Champions League for PSG as of yet. He does not arrive with the same credit in the bank as Vinicius Jr has right now. And Vinicius Jr is taking him ages to get to this level of stature with Real Madrid. It wasn't long ago that Benzema was saying, this guy's playing against us. And look at his position he's got in his side now. He is not going to give this up easily, and Mbappe has to earn it.
Absolutely. I think you're very right to point to the other issues as well. Madrid structurally definitely figuring out quite a few things. Bellingham was way below his level for the first 5-6 weeks of the season. He's really perked up now. Jeez, it's very, very different nowadays watching Jude Bellingham in December than it was in August and September. But of course, a lot of players are struggling from summer hangovers and stuff like that. He wasn't the only English player to start slow. But they've just had...
Phil Foden still hasn't turned up.
Yeah, it still hasn't started yet. And when you lose, again, they're playing with not a right back at right back half the time. I think Raul Asensio has done so well to fill in, but this is Real Madrid we're talking about, and it's proper square pegs in round holes, and it will have a knock-on effect. But I will say this: Mbappe takes too many shots. He forces way too much. He is in his own head. He's really struggling with this. You can honestly tell. And when I'm reading off those shot statistics earlier, 7, 8, 9, these numbers are way too high. You should not be taking this many shots. Half of these are easily blocked by Getafe, Mallorca, and Girona defenders. Not like Paolo Maldini making last ditch. It's like really run-of-the-mill defenders are finding it quite easy to stop him from getting his shots away because he's overthinking things and he's forcing things, and it bothers me. And there's the issue with taking shots from different areas and shooting across his body, which I think is very, very clear, and I think he needs to work on, because if this is his role now, if he plays number 9, he's going to have to be able to take shots from all around the box, the circumference of it. Although I say this knowing that, have you noticed that he doesn't really spend... So let's say Real Madrid are in the settled possession and they're against a deep block. You've got a team here who are defending deep. Mbappe doesn't stand in the box.
He's never there.
He stands 25 yards away from goal next to Modric and tries to start a 1-2 that will get him running at goal with the ball at his feet. And you know what? He scored a couple of goals off it, and they are glorious. They are absolute picture perfect goals, but they're really hard to pull off because you're trying to zigzag through tight areas. And when Bellingham filled in at number 9 last year, he just stood on the penalty spot and swept home 20 goals. You can get your numbers quite easily like that, but he won't do it. He's got his own take on this, and it's going to take time for this to develop. So I look back at all this, and I really can't believe I thought, even for a second, despite knowing that this was an awkward fit, he didn't like playing number 9. He and Vinicius would have to vibe. I still expected more. And the more I dig into it, the more I can explain it away. It doesn't change the fact that it has to change.
Absolutely. It definitely has to change. And I can't believe I'm bringing him up again, but I mean, I can't imagine the amount of Hoslu's 19 goals that were within the 6-yard box.
He's spot on.
If you're not in the 6-yard box as a 9, you miss out on so many tap-ins.
You do.
You really do. Mbappe is just not there. And he's not going to get on the end of crosses. He's not very good in the air. Fair enough, he's good at everything aside from that on the football pitch. But he's just missing out on making this easier for him. If he just did some number 9 stuff for a month, I'd love to see it.
Is there an argument to suggest that actually what they should do is go back to playing Jude Bellingham as a 9 and then play the 3 of these behind Jude Bellingham so that Mbappe can pick the ball up from those areas? Now,
maybe as like a support striker, Mbappe.
Yeah. But I don't think this will work at the moment, for what it's worth, because obviously you're looking at this team and thinking, okay, they currently don't have very many defenders. We're seeing, fill-ins from Tchouaméni and Raul Asensio. They haven't got a right back who does right back things. Lucas Vazquez is trying his best, God bless him. Yep. But he's not a very good defender.
He's Lucas Vazquez.
Yeah, which is fair enough. He's working incredibly hard, and he should be given credit.
He's
Brilliant
literally
servant.
Lucas Vazquez.
Yeah, great servant. But like when they get back to full strength, there is probably an argument to be like, well, if Jude's going to stand on the penalty spot and do things like get on the end of things and head the ball towards goal when there's crosses, etc., there's probably an argument to be like, okay, if Mbappe wants to stand at the back behind Modric, as you say, and start those moves, then maybe there's a way that can work. It just doesn't feel like right now Madrid have the capacity with their injuries. Well, the only other thing is that I just wanted to touch on was you spoke about confidence there and kind of maybe doing too much. Mbappe's actually talked about this. He did an interview, I think it was with Canal Plus, and he basically was like, at the start, I was too hungry. I wanted to get off to a great start. I wanted to get it happening immediately for me. And he was like, and I've learned just to calm down and think about things a little bit more. And I do think, to take on Doogie's point, over the last couple of weeks, it feels like he's doing a bit less. And with that little bit less, he's actually doing a little bit more.
Yeah, that'd be good. I just looked at while you were talking. Joselu joined Al Gharafa in the Qatari Stars League in the summer. So, there's no reason to say they can't get him back. And you know what, Jack, to your point, if you ever see Mbappe scampering through on goal at the moment, there's a 50-50 chance that pass was played by Jude Bellingham, having taken the ball in, turned a man and played it through. Other times it's Modric, but sometimes it's Jude Bellingham. So I think that dynamic might be able to work. I've got one final point to raise before we close things off. I've written it down in bold capital letters and it says reps, reps, reps. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I have no idea.
Get
You
him to
do.
practice.
Your January gym routine?
It's not my gym routine. It's to do with the fact that quite clearly the only way to let Mbappe, Vinicius and Rodrigo and Bellingham to a point, but mostly those three, for them to ever coexist properly, it's going to have to be a free-flowing attack. Like there's no way you can actually give them static positions, even if you nominally decide you're on the left, you're in the middle, you're on the right. There's going to be an element of bleeding through it, right? And that's good. You want combinations, you want fluidity. Those players need to know each other's movements so well, so intrinsically, for that to ever work. And we always point to the shining star example of the free-flowing attack. And I'm very sorry, Real Madrid fans, but that shining example is the Barcelona trident of Messi, David Villa, and Pedro. And maybe Thierry Henry before David Villa. They knew each other so well. The familiarity levels were incredible, right? They shut their eyes and play together. They knew each other's shopping list on a weekly basis. You need that. And the only way to gain those reps and that familiarity is time.
Absolutely.
It can't be done in 4 months. It can't be done in 6 months. It might take 18 to 24. Luckily, all these players are in the prime of their careers and they have the time. And Real Madrid can hopefully show the patience and let that elapse. Hopefully. And, probably if they just crack at this for the next 12 months, it will look so much better and so different in 12 months' time, just because they'll get to know each other a little bit better. And maybe, based on the talent we have at our disposal here, the type of talent we're talking about, maybe it can come close to the Messi via Pedro axis. Like, there's no reason it can't. It's that good on paper. But for that to really develop, unfortunately, there is no shortcut, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go Messi, Suarez, Neymar, to be honest, as well.
Less fluid, I think.
That one was also good.
It was good. It was good, but also less similar in terms of, I don't know.
So I think with
Neymar
that one,
was the coming superstar.
Neymar was on the left.
Yeah.
Messi was on the right. And they sort of stayed there. Where I think with Pedro in the mix earlier, 5 years earlier, I think it was a lot more interchanging and Messi was in the middle. So he did drift, and I think there was a lot of movement there. And I think that's what Madrid are probably aiming for here.
Yeah,
probably.
And Rodrigo and Pedro, feel more similar in terms of like status in that lineup.
Yes,
than the Messi Suarez Neymar, where they all come as complete superstars.
Is there a question there though that whilst you're like reps, and I completely agree with you for what it's worth in terms of the only way that you start to understand this. I am slightly concerned that Real Madrid are not going to let those reps happen. Not because I think they're going to sell Vinicius or Kylian Mbappe, but because they see Arda Güler there banging on the door for that right wing spot. And I think if they get the right offer for Rodrigo, they'll let him go. And yet I feel like Rodrigo might be the glue. I feel like Rodrigo might be the player to actually tie this all together.
Yeah, maybe. And look, but they have enough time that if they decide that Rodrigo's going to go and Arda Güler is going to be going to complete the three, they have enough time to make that work. But Carlo's the perfect manager for this. He's so unasked. He'll just be like, just figure it out, lads.
so much of it is tied into Salah's future as well, and I think he will stay at Liverpool. But if he leaves, then I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at a player like Rodrigo, to be totally honest. I can't really see them going for a Brian Mbeumo or a Antoine Semenyo. It feels like too big a shoes to fill. So maybe they look at someone like Rodrigo, but Salah, I think, wants that new contract. If he gets the new contract, I can see Rodrigo staying. Look, they've got an embarrassment of riches. We shouldn't write off Mbappe at the moment, but I'm pleased with my definition of average at the start. Where are you at on that?
Mbappe is not performing up to standard, and he needs to work. He needs to add strings to his bow. I can understand why this has happened the way it's happened. I can't sit here and be like, it's ridiculous, because in June I was like, uh-oh.
Well, exactly.
So we've only been proven correct. However, this needs to change. I expect it will, but like the longer that takes, the more the pressure mounts. And if Mbappe can get out of his own head a little more, it will do him the world of good here. But none of us can sit here and say what it's like to cost this much money, to have this reputation, to have this level of expectation, and to play for Real Madrid. Like
scheduled everything, the pressure.
So none of us can really tell him what to do, despite the fact that I just tried to.
We had a damn good go at it.
We did indeed, yeah. Right, should we get out of here?
Yes.
Doogie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you as ever.
Jack, thank you for keeping us in check.
Vaguely. Thanks a million, Sam.
Yeah, and thank you to the listener for keeping us company. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you are enjoying your festive season. We'll see you soon.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
There are a lot of reasons some people choose cannabis. Whether you're tapping into your creative side or just trying to relax, the one thing weed won't do is make it any more safe or legal to drive afterwards. It can slow reaction times, for example, and if you thought a few eye drops helped you get away with it, know that people can tell when you've been smoking marijuana, including law enforcement. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high. Get a DUI.
This podcast is brought to you by Kleenex Lotion Tissues. You can't predict sick days, but with Kleenex Lotion Tissues, you can be better prepared for them while helping keep your skin healthy. Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation while you're battling those unwanted cold and flu symptoms. It's extra care when you need it most. Keep relief within reach. Grab Kleenex Lotion Tissues to help avoid the added discomfort of irritated skin during cold and flu season. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
From the makers of Rice-A-Roni comes Macaroni, a creamy, delicious boxed mac and cheese that's not just good, it's cheesy good. Macaroni will please even the pickiest eaters with 2 magnificent flavors that will melt your heart: creamy cheddar and creamy white cheddar. If you love cheese, you'll love Macaroni by the makers of Rice-A-Roni. If you don't love cheese, well, that's just unbelievable. Try Macaroni. It's cheesy good.
Macaroni, the San Francisco treat.
Parents, did you know that only 50% of U.S. adults are financially literate? Millions of people don't fully understand how to manage money, and it's up to you to not let your kids grow up into that statistic. With Greenlight's educational money app and parent-controlled debit card, you can teach them how to earn, save, and invest wisely. The earlier they learn, the better prepared they'll be to manage their money and build a financially secure life. Give your kids the financial edge they need. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast. That's greenlight.com/podcast.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.